Hey guys, we're back for another video. Make sure you guys are liking the video. And also, if you guys are not following me on Twitch, make sure you guys are actually doing that, okay? Here is my handle over there on Twitch. Everything is at LakeyshaKeysha. I don't know, I may have a little bit more followers over there. I'm trying to get to 1,000, so head on over there on Twitch, and it's at LakeyshaKeysha and follow me. Now, if you see me looking from one screen to another, it's because I have a different setup and it looks like my second camera is off and I've been trying to figure it out all day. So we're just going to go ahead and do this video and then I'll figure that out later. But again, make sure you guys are following me over on Twitch at LakeyshaKeysha. Also, if you guys are on TikTok, same handle at LakeyshaKeysha, Facebook, Instagram, and of course, Snapchat. Now, we're talking about Lake Lanier. Now, if you guys are from Georgia or if you know anybody in Georgia, you know that Lake Lanier, they've been saying for years that that place is haunted. Well, let's get into some of the events that just happened with regards to Lake Lanier, um, which was a tragedy around the holiday. So let's get into that in a second. Let me get my screen share here. Like I said, I got a little different setup. So I'm kind of getting comfortable with it, but it's been taking me a minute here. So let's kind of get into what's going on most recently.
Breaking at 11, 7 people walk away alive, but with painful burn injuries after a boat exploded on Lake Lanier. Atlanta News First reporter Alani Latang is live on Lake Lanier in Beaufort tonight. And Alani, you actually just got some new information from authorities.
Yeah, we're now learning that 7 people got injured with second and third degree burns, all of them going to the hospital. But a very traumatic scene for a lot of people that saw it and then were watching the rescue happen. So what we know from officials from the Department of Natural Resources and Hall County Fire is that that boat was being towed when it suddenly erupted and exploded, sending up 5-foot flames near the Margaritaville area of Lake Lanier. They say that the tow operator actually rescued all of them, and people, again, just describing that horrifying aftermath. Officials say they range in ages from just 5 years old to 45 years old. Again, it was very hard for witnesses to see.
They were crying, screaming, and you could see that they had been burned.
Yeah, and that cause of the fire is still under investigation, and Hall County and the DNR are both investigating how this all happened. But we do know that everyone will be okay, but very traumatic, especially for those children.
Now that is, something that just happened at Lake Lanier. Now let's give y'all some of the history at Lake Lanier because people are just saying that the place is haunted and they've been trying to, well, actually Tamika Raymond, or I think she goes by Foster, which is Usher's ex-wife, she tried to get the thing closed. And I think she did a petition. I'm not sure what happened, but let me just give y'all some background on Lake Lanier. So Lake Lanier is actually a popular man-made lake in Georgia. It has a tragic history of deaths and accidents, leading to its reputation as one of the deadliest lakes in America. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but you couldn't pay me to go on Lake Lanier. So let's get into some key facts about Lake Lanier's deadly history. Now, this can be off because, of course, statistical data is updated however they update it. But from what I found, the total deaths at Lake Lanier had been reported well over 700 deaths that has occurred since its creation in the 1950s. Now, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers estimates that more than 500 deaths since the construction of the Beaufort Dam. Now, the recent deaths between 1994 and 2022, they're saying over 200 people died at the lake, and this is according to the Georgia Department of Natural Resources. Now, in 2023 alone, there were 13 deaths. Recent incidents in July 2025 include a boat fire, which we just spoke about, injuring several people, and a body being found after a kayaker went missing in May 2025. Is that not enough? Now, some of the things they're saying, major causes, they're saying a primary factor that is contributing to the deaths at the lake is pretty much, they're saying, let's get into it, y'all. So if you guys are familiar with what actually occurred at Lake Lanier, okay, they're saying some of the things that happened was because there's a presence of submerged debris like old roads, building foundations left over from the communities flooded to create the lake. So basically what they're saying is it's a whole town, a city under the lake, okay, which pose risk to swimmers and boats. Other causes include sudden death, changes, boating accidents, people speeding, and then of course they say the people are drunk, and then limited water visibility. So let's just unpack that for a minute, okay? It's a whole city under the lake. I guess that will be enough, okay? Now let's talk about Oscarville. Now, Oscarville is the city that's under this lake. Now, Oscarville had a racial history, and let's kind of get into it. Lake Lanier was built on land that was once the site of Oscarville. Now, Oscarville was a thriving Black town whose residents were displaced due to racial violence and the creation of the lake. So racial violence breaks out, they create the lake, flood the place. Now, the history is believed by some to contribute to the sense of haunting or a curse on the lake. I mean, it makes sense to me. Now, what they're saying is boating accidents at Lake Lanier has a higher rate basically compared to other lakes in Georgia. So they're saying what's happening at Lake Lanier is happening at a rapid pace compared to other lakes, okay? That's pretty much what they're saying. Now, if you guys are not familiar with Oscarville, I actually have a short video that I want to show you if I can find it, child, with my new setup here. It just seems like everything just kind of disappeared. So let me give you, I got a short video that I want to show y'all on Oscarville, which is going to kind of give y'all some little background as to you know, what Oscarville was all about and what actually happened. Give me a moment. Like I said, I have a new little setup and stuff is all over the place. So give me a second here. Oh boy. I actually like the little new setup, but it's child, trying to get to know what's going on. So let's kind of get into this video here.
We are taking a closer look at an all-Black town in Georgia called Oscarville.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about this on social media for the last few years. And if you haven't heard of it, it's probably because it no longer exists. It's buried under Lake Lanier. 11 Alive's Latasha Gibbons has more.
When we started working on this story, we set out to track down descendants of Oscarville. Weeks later, we found a family who could trace back their roots 4 generations. They shared with us stories that were handed down about what the all-Black town was like, including the night that led to its destruction. It was set on fire by night riders after they say a white woman was raped. Then later, it was covered by the body of water we now know as Lake Lanier. May Crow is buried here at this Gainesville cemetery, but the trail of destruction following her death stretches into the land surrounding Forsyth County, buried beneath these waves of Lake Lanier, where in 1912, nearly every Black resident was forced out. That includes people living in an old Black town called Oscarville. The community was formed in the late 1800s during the Reconstruction era.
There was a very strong community feeling among the Blacks. About 300 children that went to some of the schools that were the Black schools, and it was closely connected to the churches.
Georgia history teacher Lisa Crosby says Oscarville was a thriving Black community, full of carpenters, blacksmiths, and bricklayers, but farming was the top trade.
So they really had kind of a miraculous farming growth here while the rest of the state was really struggling.
But then residents were abruptly forced off their land.
The flashpoint, I think, is 1912.
This takes us back to the death of May Crow. The 19-year-old white woman was found dead in the woods near Oscarville, presumably after being raped.
Typically, the answer to white girls being raped was go to the Black community and just start blaming people.
By nightfall, terror began to reign over Oscarville.
So from there, the rage and hatred in the community, mobs got together and they were called night riders, and they were riding throughout Oscarville and driving out the Black community.
And the night turned deadly. You know, they were waking up by fires outside, fire bombs thrown in the church.
Filmmaker Bob Mackey recaptures those horrific nights in an upcoming television series.
Anytime anything happened, guess where everyone would go? To the church. Well, they attacked the church. People were hung, lynched.
Mackey's series features stories of direct descendants like George Rucker, who can trace his family back 4 generations to Oscarville. He tells the story of his great-grandfather, Bert Oliver, and the entire family being forced off their land.
Night riders came through. They had to leave everything. The main thing they left was property. My grandfather had 100 acres.
Rucker says many relatives died as they tried to flee.
So when they got to the 𝐬𝐻𝐫𝐽 River, from what I understand, they were told, when the mob got up on the bridge, they were told that they either had to swim or drown. Most of them didn't make it. My grandfather, one of them that did make it, he lost some brothers and sisters.
He says his relatives who survived settled in Gainesville.
From what my mother told me, Bert Oliver, he would sit and tell her this story, and he would just sit and cry.
Crosby says whites in the area took over the remaining properties. She says Oscarville farmers were specifically skilled in raising poultry, which set the pace for Gainesville eventually becoming poultry capital of the world.
You have a farm already going, and you had free land, so you just take it.
Rucker says his great-grandfather married his second wife, Beulah, and they built this school that still stands in Gainesville today. By the late 1950s, the Beaufort Dam was built and Lake Lanier was formed, covering up Oscarville and swallowing most of its history. Many believe Lake Lanier is haunted because of the high number of drownings. We spoke to officials who tell us because there is an entire town that includes structures and even forest areas with trees that are 60 feet tall, it makes it more difficult to navigate through, and someone can easily become trapped in debris, leading them to drowning. We have so much more on this story on our website.
Imagine that, a whole entire town that was flooded.
People in North Georgia are familiar with them.
Based on, I'm sorry, y'all. Like I said, I got a new little setup, child. I'm trying to navigate this. So basically, you have an entire town that is underwater, a thriving Black community. And in closing, Oscarville is known as a ghost town in Forsyth County, Georgia. Now, let me just kind of connect it for you guys. Lake Lanier is on top of an entire town. Now, Oscarville was a major Black town and is most famous for being a central location in a series of violent crimes and racially motivated riots that happened in 1912. As the video stipulated, there was a white woman that was arred, and for some reason, they tore up the entire town, flooded it, and people lost their lives, okay? And that is where, again, Lake Lanier is sitting on top of it. So people are saying, listen, Lake Lanier is haunted. Y'all forced those people out of their homes. A lot of those people died because, as you heard in the video, what was stated is if you couldn't swim, then you died. And think about it. Even if you could swim, you would have needed to be a great swimmer to be able to swim out of a large body of water. Now, I don't know if y'all familiar with the 𝐬𝐻𝐾𝐭 River. If you're not, just look it up. So let me know what y'all think. Again, make sure you guys are liking the video. Go ahead and share the video. And as I originally stated, make sure you guys are following me on TikTok, on Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat.